All right, let's talk about something we see every single day, but almost never really think about. It's a silent crisis that's happening right under our feet, in the soil. Let's dig in. So think about it. When you're walking around, what do you see under your feet? Probably just dirt, right? Something to be washed off your shoes or swept away. But what if I told you that dirt is actually one of the most complex, most vital ecosystems on the entire planet? Yeah, it's not just dirt, it's a hidden metropolis just teeming with life. And get this, over 95% of the food on your plate, it exists because of this underground world. So, what is actually going on down there? Okay, so first up, let's take a little journey and explore this living world right beneath us. So, how do we even begin to understand what's going on down there? Well, scientists have this really cool tool called a soil profile. It's basically a cross-section of the ground that shows all these different layers they call horizons. Think of it like our map for this incredible underground journey. All right, let's take that journey, starting from the very top. First, you've got the O horizon. That's like a blanket of leaves and all that good organic stuff. Right below that is the A horizon. This is the good stuff, the rich, dark topsoil where most of the action happens. Deeper still is the B horizon, which kind of acts like a storage locker for minerals. Then you hit the C horizon, which is basically weathered, broken up rock, and at the very bottom, you get to the R horizon, solid bedrock. So why do we care so much about that topsoil? Well, check out this number, 59%. What do you think that is? That is the estimated percentage of all life on Earth that lives in the soil. Let that sink in. More than half of all biodiversity on our planet is right under our feet. So who are these residents? You're not going to believe this. In a single gram of soil, that's about the weight of a paperclip, there can be over 1 million bacteria, all working to cycle nutrients. There are these huge fungal networks that act like a superhighway extension for plant roots. And you know that amazing earthy smell after it rains? Yep, that comes from a type of bacteria in the soil. And of course, we've got the earthworms, the great engineers, constantly tilling and enriching the ground. This is the living world that's at rest. Okay, so we've established this incredible, vibrant world. But, and this is a big but, it is under threat. Let's take a look at how. And the threats? They really come from two main sources. On one side, you have agriculture, the chemicals we use to grow our food. This stuff is often widespread, kind of diffuse. And on the other side, you've got industrial sources, waste from factories, from mines, and this pollution can be way more concentrated, and frankly, way more toxic. Let's look at the farming side first. A lot of the time, the problem is simply too much of a good thing. We use way too much fertilizer, and the extra nitrogen and phosphorus just washes away. Then there are persistent pesticides. I'm talking about chemicals that just don't break down. They can hang around for decades. And get this, some fertilizers even have hidden heavy metals, like cadmium in them. And on the industrial side, the link is often scarily direct. You can see it right here. The leather tanning industry can release chromium, metal processing, we're talking lead, cadmium, mercury, petroleum refining, mining. They all have their own toxic cocktail they can unleash into the soil. Now, here's where it gets really scary. This pollution doesn't just sit in the soil. Oh no, it kicks off a dangerous chain reaction. See, these contaminants, they don't stay put. They're mobile, they can trickle down into our groundwater, which is where we get our drinking water. And at the same time, they can get sucked up by plants, starting this really dangerous journey up the food chain. So let's trace the path of one of these pollutants. It all starts with the soil getting contaminated. Then, plants absorb these pollutants. That's a process called bioaccumulation. But it gets worse. When animals eat those plants, the toxins get more and more concentrated as you move up the food chain. That's called biomagnification. And all the while, other pollutants are just seeping straight into our groundwater. And this isn't some abstract science problem. This has very real, very human consequences. For example, when all those extra nitrates from fertilizer get into drinking water, it can cause something called blue baby syndrome in infants. It's a terrifying condition that literally limits the oxygen in their blood. Okay, that's pretty bleak, I know, but it's a serious problem. And the good news is there are serious solutions. So how do we start to heal our soil? You know, the best defense is always a good offense. Prevention is everything. This means we need smarter farming, things like using fewer chemical pesticides and being way more precise with fertilizer, only putting it where it's actually needed. It also means industries have to get serious about treating their waste properly. And of course, there's organic farming, which is all about designing these synthetic chemicals out of the system from the get-go. But what about all the pollution that's already out there, in the ground? Well, there's this absolutely fascinating solution called phytoremediation. It's a big word, but the idea behind it is just brilliant. We can use special plants to literally clean up the soil. One of the coolest types of this is phytoextraction. Check out how this works. Scientists go into a contaminated area and plant these special species called hyperaccumulators. Now, these plants are amazing. They're basically sponges for heavy metals. They suck them up through their roots and store them in their leaves. So what do you do next? You just harvest the plants. You're effectively removing the metals from the soil. Then you dispose of those plants safely, and voila! You've literally used nature to pull pollution right out of the ground. When you boil it all down, it really comes to this. That world beneath our feet, it isn't just dirt. It's the absolute foundation of our survival. It cleans our water, it grows our food, it even helps regulate our climate. Protecting it isn't just about saving an ecosystem, it's about protecting ourselves. So the real question is, what are we going to do to save this silent, living world that every single one of us depends on?